If there is one hero that has a storied history with Dota 2, it's certainly that of Wraith King, formerly known as Skeleton King. He's gone from being quite literally a one-button hero in the early days of Dota 2, to now being a bit more diverse while still maintaining a relatively simple kit and playstyle. This guide on Wraith King is here to explain how and why you should be playing him not just as a carry though, but as a position 3 powerhouse, due to how much effect and power he has in the current ranked environment. If you like videos such as this, I'd hugely appreciate a thumbs up and a follow here on my channel. I do educational content every week, and your interest and support is what makes that possible. While his hero design might indeed be rather simplistic, don't let that fool you one bit. The king is strong right now. Wraith King currently stands in a very comfortable spot in this meta, because he's able to be strong at just about all stages of the game, and doesn't carry a whole lot of downsides for playing him. He's able to play aggressive in lane for one thing, having a stun that lets us help out our support when necessary, as well as contesting last hit, on top of having a very reliable crit for the sake of applying damage and scoring easy last hits, especially on the range creep. His healing from Vampiric Spirit is also especially bonkers for the current laning metagame. Regen, having enough of it and staying safe because of it, is absolutely key for winning crates and surviving the laning stage. And Wraith King finds himself in a unique position amongst his peers, where he provides a huge amount of healing towards himself, going all the way up to a hilarious 50% lifesteal, which, compared to Satanic's flat 30% as an item, is just plain amazing to have as part of his base skill kit. Staying at high health values is often very easy for the king, and by virtue of skilling his healing, he's also able to acquire his incredibly useful skeleton minions, which only lets him apply that much more pressure towards heroes and towers if he's winning his lane, or proceed to recover farm with great efficiency if he's been on the losing side. Because of this, Wraith King really can be a dominant hero in most games, despite whatever the initial lane outcome happens to be, making him very reliable and versatile as a chosen hero. Ah yes, skilling Wraith King is truly an art form. Luckily for us, it's a fairly easy one at that, which actually makes him quite appealing, because we won't be bogged down greatly with a wide variety of different builds on a per game basis. As a first, you want to start off with stun at level 1. If your team and you are going for early runes, it allows you a very good chance at a kill before lane for one thing. Following this, you're also able to apply a very potent amount of pressure and annoyance by using it in lane. The stun duration is just long enough for you to hit your opponent before he goes for a last hit, giving you a free last hit or a deny in the process, making you incredibly annoying to lane against early. It also allows you easy access to help your lane support by stacking up against the enemy support with an assist stun. Following this, we want to take either Vampiric Spirit or Mortal Strike, and it's usually lane dependent. Vampiric Spirit is better if you're taking a lot of punishment from your opponents and have to remain a bit tankier, while Mortal Strike is superior if you can see an opening and apply more damage to the enemy. Not to mention it also allows you to score some particularly guaranteed last hits that the enemy won't be able to deny. Regardless of choice, at level 3, we want to have 1 point in every ability Wraith King has on offer. Following this, the most common route by far is to max Vampiric Spirit. The numbers on the ability is nutty. You become obscenely hard to kill, as well as gaining more charges for your skeleton minions, making you able to both push, farm and apply damage with them much faster. It is possible to put another point in Mortal Strike for the sake of a little bit more lane pressure too. By level 6, we want to take our ultimate as soon as we're able. It's not uncommon to skip it on Wraith King, especially if you're playing Safelane, but what makes it really good for offlane Wraith King is that we essentially gain what amounts to a free Aegis on a cooldown. This Aegis lets us practically dive a tower, die intentionally, and kill the enemy from doing so. It also makes it so rotations that happen towards us often don't amount to you dying, but rather only people putting your ultimate on cooldown, which is super annoying for them. Following this, we want to max Vampiric Spirit as soon as possible, followed by Mortal Strike, and then finish up by maxing Wraith Fire Blast for the added stun duration. This build is pretty much what you'll be doing on just about every Wraith King game, with the only minor difference being whether or not you put an additional point in Mortal Strike, or skip out on your ultimate by a level or 2. The most common and utilized talents by Wraith King focus on his skeleton summons and are as follows. Duration at level 10, skeleton damage at 15, 6 plus maximum skeletons at 20, and finished off by reincarnation cast Wraith Fire Blast at 25. Alternatively, his blast stun duration at 15 and cleave talent at 20 are both very viable too, so skill to the occasion of the game you find yourself in. Even if he's the ruler of the team, a king still needs his items, and whereas his skill build is relatively simple on average, we can go for a lot of different items on Wraith King, especially as an offlaner. Much like most other heroes out there, we want to get a hold of a magic wand. It's simply very cost efficient, and due to how laning works in this day and age, it'll help supply us with especially extra mana, which allows us to fire off more Wraith Fire Blasts to mess with the enemy in laning stage. I'm a big believer of a single bracer on Wraith King, which can also, alternatively, be a soul ring instead, and works very well in conjunction with the massive amount of lifesteal we acquire from our native kit. One stat item does a lot for the King's laning. The boots of choice we'll be heading for first is that of face boots. The added movement and armor is really nice for Wraith King, more so because it's what often lets us gap close towards our targets in the early laning stage and ganks, prior to having movement from Blink Dagger. Following this, we need the big item of choice, which can be quite a few variety of things. So let's list a few of the worthy candidates. Echo Saber is solid because it provides a bunch of different stats, a double hit, and of course builds into Harpoon later on. Armlet of Mordegon is a personal favorite of mine on a lot of offlane heroes, and can be particularly nasty on Wraith King, due to how well it plays around his crit and the safety net of his ultimate. Midas, even as an offlaner, is also a common pickup on him. It gives him a method of farming even faster, and because he's already plenty tanky with his base stats and spell kit, we can afford to play around it quite easily. Desolator happens to play perfect around his damage from Mortal Strike, and the added damage that the Skeleton summons gain as well is just ridiculous on heroes and structures alike. And Blade Mail, a common staple for a lot of offlane heroes in this patch. It provides decent stats and makes you that much more annoying to play around, especially if you fling yourself at the enemy early. Between all these items, there's no definitive do this every game purchase, and largely depends on the outcome of laning, as well as player preference in general. You essentially can't go wrong building any of these 5 recommended items. The next item is the most crucial of them all for playing Wraith King, however, and that happens to be Blink Dagger. Much like many other offlaners, we want to have one medium item, and then acquire movement from Blink Dagger. It completely changes the dynamic of the hero, by allowing us much easier movement around on the map, take fights, and start applying serious aggression to the enemy. Following Blink, however, the world truly is your oyster, and there's yet again a wide variety of items on offer for you, which, yet again, are wholly game specific. A quick mention also goes out to Wraith King's Shard. It's most often acquired shortly after Blink Dagger. It improves our already amazing ultimate, making it so that we can't run on low mana for activating it, on top of improving our skeleton count. If mana is ever going to be a problem for survival, pick it up ASAP. A common powerful pickup that adds to your annoyance is that of Radiance. Wraith King is just about one of the best carriers of the item, and with Blink Dagger we often find ourselves in the middle of every fight where Radiance will do the most. Assault Cuirass does a whole lot for yourself and your team, that is to say your allied heroes as well as the legion of summons you'll be bringing to the enemy structures. Aghanim Scepter can be a very potent choice as well, because it allows people to stay alive for longer after death, allowing greater damage from them. It is also incredibly powerful if a player didn't get their abilities off before dying. More often than not, you'll have won the game with 1 or 2 of these items in your possession, and can build towards anything extra if the game does go on. With skill build and item build now somewhat solidified, let's glance quickly at how to rule over the battlefield like a true king. Regardless of playing Wraith King as an offlane or safe lane, we want to be very wild and aggressive with our game plan. Utilizing the base kit of Vampiric and Mortal Strike early, we're able to apply a lot of damage onto the enemy by not being afraid of trading blows with them. This is insanely favorable on average, because while they have tangos in limited supply, we have healing in abundance from our passive. Keep up this aggression in the laning stage, and try to come out on the other side victorious by playing actively around your lane support. If winning lane didn't happen, then we're able to dip into jungle and farm with incredible speed from our skeleton minions, and get back into the game with the same build in a jiffy. The most integral part of our game plan essentially comes from achieving our first big item and following it up with a Blink Dagger, which should preferably happen before the timer hits 20 minutes of game time. As soon as we have Blink Dagger, we want to play grossly in your face against the opponent. Due to the way our ultimate works, we have the luxury to tank a crap ton of damage intentionally, only to die and be reborn. Like this, combined with Blink Dagger, we're able to start and engage first as the main initiator. After any 1 engagements, we're able to very efficiently apply even more pressure to the enemy through a method of using our skeleton minions from our Vampiric ability. Their potential to push towers is downright criminal. If Roshan is available, they're equally good at slamming him into bits as well, and acquire an Aegis for another teammate since we're already immortal after all. Continue with this playstyle, and primarily only let the cooldown of your ultimate dictate your lack of playing actively. When reincarnation is on cooldown, especially if we have a streak on our person, we want to be a bit more wary of dying. But once it's off cooldown, or very close to, we want to put the enemies to the fire and allow them no chance of recovery. Taking fights like this over and over again, from minute 25 to minute 30, will very often let you push high ground fairly fast, and once the enemy has no more glyphs available for defense, little stands in the way of you and your many skeleton minions, able to completely crush the barracks in record time. And soon after that, the enemy is ancient. Wraith King is in a super comfortable spot at the moment. While there's quite a bit of variance on what you can do build-wise on him, his relatively simple playstyle is very accommodating and effective. Reincarnation in particular lets you play a lot safer as a player, and you might find yourself more keen and able to play a lot more recklessly than you otherwise would have with other core heroes. Which also makes Wraith King arguably one of the best heroes for practicing threat assessment and fighting on low life in teamfights. He comes highly recommended, is a blast to play, and is in general just extremely well rounded and solid for the sake of gaining MMR in just about any lineup if you play him actively like this.